I would say it wasn't easy because, I had a very technical background. And then as you step into management, you start to realize, it's not about the technology, not just about technology anymore. How do you actually put people together? How do you choose the most suitable solution for the kind of challenge your business is facing? Then you make a lot of trade-off calls, right? So I think just over the year, it's a lot of changes, but a lot of learning. And you have to adapt because then you realize, hey, I was wearing my engineer's hat. Now I got to put on my CTO hat, and you realize, okay, this project doesn't make sense, even though it sounds really nice using all the new technology, but it doesn't make financial sense. So let's move this way. So I would say that you have to be more proactive in reaching out to people, right? I joke about this, in the BC days before coronavirus, and after the AC and BC. So during the BC era, you can run into people. So I was just, in the previous interview telling them that when I first took on this job, I made my first trip to our division headquarters in Amsterdam, and I had a lot of meetings. Then after that, I came back, I realized the most important meeting I had was probably that one time I was in the kitchen making a cup of espresso, and someone important just came to me and just chatted with me for like 2 minutes. And later on I realized, wow, that's pretty important, right? And now everyone is on Zoom or whatever they choose. You're not going to have that kind of opportunity. And as a team leader, I think people will probably want to run into me too. So I might as well just set up time and run into them. So from time to time, I do have these one-on-ones with my direct reports, but I also occasionally set up one-on-ones with skip level people. So it's like, or, like set up these casual coffee chats. So we will bring your own coffee. But, during the coffee chat, you can talk about anything, right? You could talk about the movies or even any question about the company. You can talk about that, right? So I think during this time as an executive, you had to make yourself super approachable and available. So people feel comfortable that if they have any concern at all, or any suggestions, they can just feel free to set up a Zoom with you or just send you a Slack message or WhatsApp, and you just have a conversation with them. So this is very important because honestly, I'm honestly really worried about this. We continue to be isolated because I want the team to be together. Not that I don't enjoy working from home, but I want to see my team together, and they may have some design debates. They will have a very intense debate together, and then they will go out to lunch or have coffee together and patch things up and come back and continue to discuss and debate, and then let the best idea emerge from this, right? With this kind of setup, you don't have that. People are just like, oh, trying to get alignment and then move on to the next one. So I think in the long run, hopefully, we can, even if, there's still the coronavirus out there, but we can find a better way for some limited people to, in a very, at least a really safe way for them to be together and they can have that healthy debate together. Yeah. I would say that number one, be flexible, because if you ask me what 2021, 2022 will be like, honestly, we don't know. I would say 5 years ago, when anyone interviewed for a job, what do you envision yourself do in 5 years? No one would have envisioned this, right? So the world is changing dramatically. So I would say maybe even some people feel like, hey, I want to be in the software industry. I want to do this AI or whatever, right? But hey, you got to be flexible. Find a good opportunity, but it may not be what you envision yourself to do. Try and do it, right? And then maybe you're going to learn a lot. It's just like when at Walmart, right? I was an engineering manager, and then the CEO gave me an opportunity and say, hey, go and build this business process offshore team, but you had to leave engineering for a while. To me, as a computer science person, it's like, wow, go to the dark side, right? But I was like open mind, like, okay, let me try that. Then I learned a lot about, there's inbound supply chain forecasts, all that inbound forecasts and all that stuff, then you realize really, it's not just about building a website. I would say that number one, be flexible, because if you ask me what 2021, 2022 will be like, honestly, we don't know. I would say 5 years ago, when anyone interviewed for a job, what do you envision yourself do in 5 years? No one would have envisioned this, right? So the world is changing dramatically. So I would say maybe even some people feel like, hey, I want to be in the software industry. I want to do this AI or whatever, right? But hey, you got to be flexible. Find a good opportunity, but it may not be what you envision yourself to do. Try and do it, right? And then maybe you're going to learn a lot. It's just like when at Walmart, right? I was an engineering manager, and then the CEO gave me an opportunity and say, hey, go and build this business process offshore team, but you had to leave engineering for a while. To me, as a computer science person, it's like, wow, go to the dark side, right? But I was like open mind, like, okay, let me try that. Then I learned a lot about, there's inbound supply chain forecasts, all that inbound forecasts and all that stuff. Then you realize really, it's not just about building a website. So you got to be flexible with that, right? And two is, I would say that find a mentor. I would say really to people who are in their early stage, right? The mentor doesn't have to be like someone who's totally very senior. It could be someone, let's say another team's manager, right? Or someone who's just a few years more senior than you, because they are a few years, more senior. They have been through something that you haven't, right? It doesn't have to be a formal relationship. You can just reach out to the person for advice. And here I do have to thank this person, Alex. He was, when we were working together, he was actually a senior director in ASTA in the UK. So I was working with his team. And when I was working with him, I learned a lot from him. So also by observation. And when I took this job, right before I started, I sent him an email. I said, hey, Alex, I'm going to start a new job. So do you have any advice for me? And at the time he was working in Italy, and he just called me from there, and we talked for like half an hour, and he gave me a lot of advice. So finding the mentor is really important. Keep an eye out to people who you think you can learn from. And honestly, right, even if you have a bad boss, you can learn a lot from a bad boss too. You can learn like, hey, maybe you don't like your boss's decision. Then you can ask yourself, if I was in his or her shoes, would I make the same call, or what would I have done? Then you'll probably reach a very different conclusion, right? So thirdly, I would say that set your goals. Even I said that you want to be flexible in doing, like, finding a good job. It may not be what you're looking to do, but maybe you have a goal there, the ultimate goal. What do you want to be, or what do you want to do? What kind of life you want to have? Then everything you do, or even the classes you take, right, it has to go towards that goal. Anyone who doesn't have a goal, you will never have tailwind. It's just like a sailboat without a goal, you will never have tailwind. So it's important. And as far as managing down to your teammate, always make sure that you look after them, right? I always tell people, companies, projects, positions, they come and go. But it's the relationship we foster in the process that you can take with you, right? So always make sure that you look after your team, have their best interest in your mind. Of course, sometimes when you make decisions, of course, you gotta meet the company goals and all that, right? But as a leader, you always want to make sure that, how do I make sure my team members come to work every day, or log on to Zoom every day, and then they feel they are learning something new. Building a team, leading a team. It's not just about, I'm going to give you more money, more bonus, and all that, right? That's, of course, everyone wants money, but ultimately, what people want is they want to do good projects. They can learn a lot. They want to have great partners to work with, so they can have a good working experience. So you got to keep that in mind.